Hello, my name is Tyler Johnson, and the purpose of this video is to go over my engineering project titled Danger in the Air. I am a student at Clark College, and I give permission to have this video used publicly. To begin, I'd like to discuss what I saw as a problem and kind of talk about a little bit of what my solution to this problem and how it evolved into the product I have today. So as a resident of the Northwest, fires is something that is very common, and with forest fires, even if it's not in our own state, comes the issue of smoke and poor air quality levels. So most people are reliant on apps that give them a overlaying view of their area and say, hey, this is your air quality in your particular area. But for me, that didn't seem like enough. If you really want or are concerned about your air quality, you need something within your house that can tell you, hey, your air is good. No, there's still something getting in. Because if you don't have this kind of device, you could be doing all the things. You could be shutting off your AC. You could be keeping all your windows shut, all your doors shut, not opening things unless you absolutely have to, as far as doors and windows, and still have a bad air level and not know it. So to me, I thought it would make sense, especially being someone who's been in these situations with poor air quality levels, to have something portable that somebody could use in their house and test these things, because air quality can be a huge effect, especially over long terms, on your health. So that evolved into me creating what we have here today, which component-wise is an Arduino and a breadboard just for simplicity of wiring, a dust sensor here, a gas sensor, and an LCD display. So essentially, once this device is powered up, it has a slight warm-up window because the gas sensor needs to heat up, because the gas sensor itself can't actually detect or tell you, hey, I know exactly what is coming into contact. But what it does is it has a little heating plate, and as it heats up and comes to a normal temperature for operating, as things come into contact with this plate, it'll take more or less voltage for whatever is in the air that it's coming into contact with to burn it off. So relaying that amount of voltage into saying, hey, there's this point now where it's taking me more energy to burn whatever I'm coming in contact with, there must be something in the air. So it can't tell you exactly what's in the air, but it can detect things like that. Whereas the dust sensor is a small LED light, and it periodically will shine this light, and the signal that it receives on the other end is saying the clarity, essentially, of this LED, which is then turned into a voltage, and from that we can also create ourselves an understanding or a number correlated to that voltage that is telling us, hey, is our air good, or is there a lot of particles and stuff in our air? A basic overall design that I kind of came as a good idea was, instead of just turning on the sensor and having, say, maybe store the first value that your gas sensor comes into contact with, I said, hey, let's take an average. So if I was to just plug this thing in and store the first sensor, and for some reason or another it just read super hot, or as far as stuff coming into it, it read a bunch of stuff, then the rest of my values would be messed up, because it could be a high initial reading where my base level is actually down here somewhere, and I could be missing a lot of detection between here. Which is also another nice thing about having it be small and portable, is with a quick reset, if you don't like the numbers, you can try it a few times and cycle it a few times and see, hey, okay, this seems like a good solid base area that I'm not having gas detection. So I believe with having the averages, instead of having a single reading or just some number that I pick that seems relative to the testing I've done in my house and stuff like that, it makes it so it works in different environments. So if your house has different air quality or base level of gas, it doesn't matter because it is taking an average. And with that average, that works better to say if there's an increase from this average that it's reading, then that's a good indication that we're coming into contact with something. So, the next part I kind of like to talk about is future ideas. Now, as we can see, the saying is not the most well defined, or this is not something that would ever go onto market, but that's okay. This is more a prototype. But with prototypes always comes room for improvement. So, as being an engineer, hopeful, you're always kind of thinking and looking towards the future of things you play with and things you make, and what can you do to make this thing better. And to me, I think if I could pick a few things to make this better, having a bigger display might be somewhat nice, and maybe changing, because the beauty of having building this thing is you get to create the layout you want. And being as a prototype, more energy was put into getting a working result versus a display that I would like. But it would be nice to always, instead of flipping between how it works right now, it'll display your gas and then it'll switch screen and display your air. But it would be nice to always display your gas, because if you want to use this thing as a gas detector, you want a pretty quick indication that, hey, like there's gas here, or etc. Especially if you're testing, say you want to test, you have a furnace that you or a gas leak you suspect, or you suspect your gas or your gas insert in your fireplace or your wood stove is leaking, or you have a bad gasket or seal. I think it's important to have that instant read as far as being able to look at your gas levels. Component-wise, I think it would be interesting to consider humidity, but I don't think humidity, it doesn't add function to what I really want it to do. So as far as improvements, I think the biggest thing would be having something where it's not on a 2x4, but as a prototype, it's perfectly fine. And actually have soldering and some form of a display that I think actually makes more sense for layout-wise, or is more usability to me as the creator. But other than that, that was kind of my solution to this unique problem, and after messing with it and putting it together and doing the code, I have what appears to be a working air quality and gas sensor. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And one last look at the sensor. And I hope everyone has a great day. This is Tyler signing out.